Good evening and welcome. My name is Jon Taylor, the host of the Offer Accepted Show, a show for home buyers in a seller's market. If you're out there in the market and you're thinking, I'm going to buy a home, but the prices, the news, all these things that are going on, the Offer Accepted Show is going to help you be successful in today's market. We're going to help guide you through the process so that you can go from thinking about buying a house to getting the keys in your hand. There's a lot of bad news out there, and we're here to give you good news, how you can be successful, how you can get the keys to your new home, how you can get financing and offers accepted. So tonight we have a very special episode. Missy Buttrum from Homewire Realty is going to be interviewing Jill Mullane, and we're going to talk about how to get prepared, what she's seeing in the market, and how people are just like you are being successful. Kris Weninger from Fairway Independent Mortgage is going to be here to talk about what you need to do to get prepared so that you can get your offer accepted. And of course, Spiegel from McLario Firm is going to stop by and guide us through some of those legal intricacies that happen when we're purchasing a home, especially when we're purchasing a home fast like we are in today's market. I am excited about tonight's episode, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Missy and Jill.
In this segment, we're going to talk about preparing today's buyer for this market. We have Jill Mullane here from Homewire Realty, and she's going to tell us more about how to prepare your buyer. Hi, Jill. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Glad you're here today.
Thank you.
So tell me, when you first meet with a buyer, what are you talking to them about?
Well, a couple of things that we need to get in order to prepare the buyer best for this market. Number one, do they have a pre-approval from a lender? That's very important in this market with as fast as things are moving. So if they're not pre-approved already with a lender, then we can get them connected with a couple local lenders. I always suggest it best to work with a local lender in our market. It just speeds up the process a little bit. So that's one of the things that we're doing. And then just talking with them to see what their needs are, what size home they're looking for, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, what specifics are they looking for in this market?
And is there anything particular you're talking about, especially with this crazy market?
Definitely.
Above and beyond?
Absolutely. Preparing the buyers to be ready to move and act quickly. Everything, as I said, is moving very quickly in this market right now. So you need to be prepared to see houses, view houses that you want to see, and be prepared to make an offer, strong offer, right away. So that pre-approval really is very, very important.
So you mentioned the strong offer, as I know too, in the market. What are you looking at as being a strong offer? Either working with sellers or buyers, what are you seeing as strong offers?
Well, most of our sellers in this market are really looking for top dollar on their properties, of course, but a quick close and really the fewer contingencies that you can put on a property on an offer are best. So one of the things that I've been seeing quite often and been suggesting to my buyers is if they're comfortable to be prepared to waive an inspection. Certainly if we have any red flags when we're walking through a home, I wouldn't suggest that. But a lot of our buyers are prepared in this market to waive the inspection, which really does help the process speed up a little bit.
How about the appraisal contingency? Are they changing up how that's a contingency or not a contingency?
Absolutely. That's another great one to work with. The appraisal contingency is something where if the appraisal should come in lower than what the purchase price is, there's a variance there. And oftentimes the buyer is putting in their offer that they will cover that variance up to a certain dollar amount over that appraised value. So that's very enticing to a seller as well. So that's another way to kind of stand out in the market with your offer as a buyer.
How about a success story? Like we always like to hear the buyers are getting their offers accepted here on the show.
Sure.
So tell us about a success story you've had recently.
Absolutely. Well, I work with many great buyers. I love to work with buyers, especially first-time home buyers. They're my favorite because I get to kind of teach them along the way what they should be looking for and help educate them in the market. So I had some younger buyers that were looking for quite a while, again, because the market is so competitive. They were writing offers left and right and getting outbid. And we were writing offers probably up to $30,000 to $40,000 over ask price, over list price, and still getting outbid. So they played with a couple of different things. And one of the things I like to do as an agent working for my buyers is to help them stand out as much as possible. So when I'm submitting an offer, I like to put in the email to the listing agent, winning offer in the subject line.
Oh, that's great.
And then
I haven't seen that one.
Kind of write a little note about why this is the winning offer and kind of recap it for the agent. But one of the other things that this couple went through was, writing a personal letter. Often sellers don't like to see those, but sometimes it just tugs a little bit at the heartstrings. So they wrote a very personal letter explaining how the house really connected to them and their story. And somehow the seller and the buyer just made that special connection. So it worked out for them. So I was very happy for them. One other thing that you can throw into your offer is beyond the contingencies is also sometimes the buyer is offering to cover seller's closing cost up to a certain dollar amount. That's just another way to kind of help offset things for the seller and stand out a little bit more as a buyer.
Right, all great points. And also things that we as agents need to discuss with our buyers, all those different contingencies so they understand it more and understand if they're waiving something, what that means to them.
Exactly.
Thanks so much for being here, Jill. In our next segment, Jon will be talking to Kris about getting your money in order.
The number one thing you can do to be prepared to purchase a home in this market is to have your money in order. And today I have Kris Weninger from Fairway Independent Mortgage here, and we're going to talk about getting those terms figured out, because I hear so much about pre-approval, pre-qualification, loan commitment, all these different terms. Are they all the same thing? Do they mean different things? And what should I have to get my offer accepted?
Great question. Let's break it down because we talk about pre-qualification, pre-approval, loan commitment. Pre-qualification, let's break that down first. You're talking to a lender, you're giving them the information over the phone, they may run credit, kind of give you a general idea. Yes, you can have a purchase price between here and here, and it's going to give you a loan amount between here and here, and your payment's going to be X, Y, Z.
It's not anything solid, it's just the basics.
Just the basics as far as on the pre-qualification. The next step further is the pre-approval process. That's where you're going to start to submit your information such as your income, your assets, and as far as for any reserve requirements that you may have. With that, the loan officer is going to take a look at and say, yes, you can qualify for this here amount for this here purchase price. The next step, and the biggest thing that we're seeing right now, is sellers in this market are demanding their buyers to have loan commitment. The loan commitment is actually submitting all the paperwork in for your entire file and going one step further, having an underwriter approve it. So you can go in and in essence saying my income is set, my credit is set, my down payment is set. Only thing I need is an address, an appraisal, and title. Now remember in the other show I talked about in some cases we're getting what is called appraisal waivers, which is kind of nice. It'll save that customer that extra fee and that one extra step to be able to worry about or get through.
So the first step is pre-qualification, and that won't get you a house. That won't get your offer accepted at this point.
Correct. I don't think any seller is going to take a pre-qualification because there's no substance.
In normal markets, a pre-approval is what a seller is looking for, correct?
Correct. In today's market, they're demanding a little bit more because they want to make sure if they have multiple offers coming in, then in essence, they're going to pick the best one. And the best one is usually one that spends the time up front to submit all the paperwork in, to go through the underwriting process and make sure that you do have that stamp of approval.
Be prepared and do the extra work in the beginning, because when your house comes up, you have to have everything in order. How long does this typically take, if you can give us a ballpark? I imagine pre-qualification, you can do that with a quick phone call. Pre-approval might take a little bit longer, but how long does it take to get to that loan commitment?
That's a great question. It all depends upon how well the buyer is prepared. You want to make sure you submit your income documents in timely, and in addition to, as far as making sure your credit is up to speed, and in addition to, make sure you have your down payment in line, that everything is ready to go. The faster you can get that information to the lender, the faster they can get that in front of an underwriter, the faster you can get your loan commitment, and the faster you can get your offer accepted.
So to get your offer accepted, you need your income statements organized, and that would be 2 check stubs, or what? How much information do you want in that area?
A great rule of thumb is the last 30 days of pay stubs. So if you get paid every 2 weeks, you know what? Submit that 3 weeks of paycheck stubs, and then you have a full 30-day cycle. Now, in essence, you want to take a look at the last 2 years' tax returns, and W-2s are typical to submit in. Now, if you're self-employed, a little bit more information, depending upon, are you a sole proprietor or are you a corporation? So depending upon how you classify your business determines as far as what information you need. Typically for self-employment, additional documentation that is needed is a current profit and loss statement, in additional 2 to 3 months of bank statements, business bank statements, and what they do is they cross-reference the business bank statements to your P&L and making sure that, hey, you are making money this.
Now, if we have the income statements down, you talked about the credit score. What can somebody do for their credit score? Should they go to one of those Experian or something like that? Is that going to give them the information that they need?
When it comes to something like that, it's a great way to take your pulse as far as to see what's going on. You know, sometimes when you walk into the drugstore and they have one of those, pulse takers as far as seeing what the blood pressure is like, that's kind of what some of the online items are like as far as for taking a look at what your credit score is. When it comes to lenders, we take a look at different algorithms, and typically our scoring system is a little bit stricter. In most cases, we see scores sway a little bit different than what you may see online or something that you're able to pull on your own.
So that's a good start. So we talked about income, credit score, and then your down payment. Can I just have the money in Bitcoin and then just transfer it over the day of, or where does that money come from?
At the end of the day, the underwriter is going to want to take a look at the last 2 months' bank statements, see what's all going on. If you have large deposits, they're going to want to know, where is it from? What happened is when 9/11 happened and they enacted the Patriot Act, they put us as a lender on the forefront to verify for any type of illegal activity, money laundering, so on and so forth. So in essence, we have to track in where all the funds are from. If it's payroll, great. If it's a gift from family member, great. That's easy to track in. Again, know ahead of time where your money is coming from. And again, talk to your lender about it and make sure you tell them ahead of time. It's easier to get the paperwork ahead of time versus if, let's say your grandma gives you a gift for $20,000, it's easier to get that information up front versus running back, getting a copy of the check and getting a copy of the deposit slip, because sometimes it goes in and out so fast and people don't keep records at all.
Should that money be in the account for a certain period of time to show that it's seasoned?
Great question. There's 2 trains of thoughts with that. If it's deposited over the last 2 months, I have to track in where the funds are from. If the deposit is sitting in your account for 2 months, then in essence, as long as I show a 2-month bank statement, then I don't have to show where that funds are from, because your average balance won't be increased.
Perfect. Do you have a success story? We're talking about being prepared for this market and the tools that you can use to be successful. Do you have a success story of somebody who you worked with recently?
A customer come in and they went online, got pre-approved, ready to go, got an accepted offer. And as soon as they got the accepted offer, that's go time for us as far as for lenders. We want to take a look at getting everything up and ready to roll because we need to meet our contract deadlines. This particular customer wasn't having any luck as far as for getting a hold of the online lender. He's getting misinformation. I'm like, you know what? Let me help you with this. I'm a real person. I do this every day. I'm committed to the customer success. I wanted to make sure that, in essence, from where they're at, that we meet the contract deadlines and get them into a good loan program as well. So the great success story is that we're able to pick up, run with it, and close on time and get them their house.
So they were on an online service that you see during Super Bowl commercials, or one of those lenders, and they just weren't getting the customer service that they needed. They weren't getting the attention that they needed. That you're passionate about this and you're committed to getting them a successful offer, because you're here, you're local, and you're really looking out for them. That's so wonderful that you do that.
Absolutely. Not only myself and my team, I can say someone every day between, again, myself or my team, we're looking at your file every day to move it forward, to get it clear to close, and to get you to the finish line. And again, getting you your success story and getting the house that you want.
You're there to make it happen. Thank you so much for joining us, Kris, and we look forward to seeing you next week on the Offer Accepted Show.
Thanks for having me on.
Next, we're going to talk to Al Spiegel from the McLario Firm about the different legal pitfalls and benefits that you can run into in getting your offer accepted. And in particular, today we're going to talk about easements. Al, tell us a little bit about what is an easement and where does that come in the process?
Sure. So an easement is sort of a legal device that we see a lot, especially in rural properties. And what an easement is when the owner of one property gives the right to an owner of another property to go over their land or have cables that go through their land or pipes or whatever it is, but gives a limited right for another property to use their property. And easements are important because they continue even if those properties are...
You talked about rural properties and lake properties, but I see, in Wauwatosa and Waukesha, I see a lot of houses that it looks like they have a shared driveway. Would that be an easement?
Absolutely. Well, it could be an easement, and it should be an easement, and you're going to definitely want to know. The other thing we see a lot in the city is we see utility easements, where a utility company has the right to use a certain stretch of your property for their purposes and even access it without your permission. So you want to know what that's all about.
Sometimes you'll see a box in the neighborhood, like a power box, and they have an easement on that property then.
That's exactly right.
Okay. So now we understand what an easement is. What's the danger of an easement? What kind of pitfalls could we run into by having an easement on a property?
Yeah, great question. So really the danger is by having an easement on a property, you are sort of forced to enter into a legal relationship with someone just by virtue of buying that property. So you might have obligations about keeping up that shared driveway, or you might have people that have access to your yard in a way that you're not comfortable with. So you want to make sure you understand it, because there are some costs associated with that easement, and generally they're for the benefit of both properties, but you need to know what they are, because you might not want to make the same trade that the original owners made when they entered into the easement.
Can I just buy the property without the easement? Can I just say I really don't want that?
Not without negotiating a new deal with the owner of the other property.
Oh, okay. So if it's an energy company that has a box on my property, I would have to go to the energy company.
Correct.
And that's probably not going to win that one, are we?
You're probably not going to win it. What we do see sometimes when those things get changed is, for example, when the old railroad track gets turned into a running path, and the railroad company doesn't need the same access that it used to have to cut along the side or things
makes
like
sense.
that. But generally, you're not in a great negotiating position, because they need to get there and it's already been agreed to.
Right, and it's there, and they're not going to move that box.
Right.
So what's the benefits of, we talked about the pitfalls, what are the benefits of having that easement on that property?
Sure, well, kind of like we talked about, where if you have a property that's landlocked, an easement's going to allow you to get where you want to go. It's also going to allow you to get to lake access or different things like that. The other thing is, if you have a shared driveway going through your property, that easement document is going to lay out how costs are divided and things like that. So it isn't just that someone else can use your property at no cost to them. There may be something in that easement about, okay, it's time to refinish the driveway, here's how everybody contributes. So that's a big benefit that people...
That would be a benefit. Driveways aren't cheap.
Right.
If you see an easement on a property, is that a big red flag where we're just not going to purchase the house, or what's your professional opinion?
Sure. My professional opinion, I'd call it a yellow flag. It's something you got to understand. You don't want to just say easement, no big deal, but you also don't want to say easement, that's terrible, because these utility type easements are everywhere, and they're pretty normal. There might even be a road easement in front of your property where 100 years ago the road was expanded when they went from carriages to cars and they had to expand the road. No big deal, that just is what it is. But the name of the game is you got to understand what you're getting into.
So the name of the game, I think, is getting proper representation and having a team behind you so that when you do get your offer accepted, that you don't run into something where you're in a deal that you don't want to be in.
Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
you know, I unfortunately deal with a lot of people who are too late in the game and are trying to untangle a mess that's already been made. But if in the offer process, you know, when you're getting these title reports back, you're looking at these easements and talking to your realtor and talking to your lawyer and saying, what do you think about this? That's the time to sort all this stuff out, because then you know what you're getting into and everybody's comfortable moving forward.
I think in one of our future episodes, we're going to talk about the offer to purchase and really dive into it with you on that. And hopefully you'll give us some tips to keep us out of trouble. Thanks again, Al. That was great insight. I appreciate you stopping by and guiding us through those intricacies. When we're purchasing a home in today's market, there's a lot of legal and contractual obligations that they're kind of getting a new way of doing things. And so to have someone like Al here to guide us through those is so helpful, and we really appreciate it. Join us next week. We have another great episode coming up, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. I want to help you get your offer accepted, get the keys to your house, get into your dream home, your forever home, and help you be successful in purchasing your new property. My name is Jon Taylor, and I'll see you next week on the Offer Accepted Show, a show for home buyers in a seller's market.